My name is Adam, and if someone had told me a year ago that my life was about to burn down in the most humiliating way possible, I would have laughed at them. I used to believe that betrayal was something that happened to other people, not to me. I used to watch Reddit stories and think, wow, some people really destroy their entire family for the sake of cheating. Some people are heartless. Some people forget loyalty the moment temptation touches their skin. But I never imagined I would become the main character of that kind of story. I never imagined that one day I would wake up and realize the two people I trusted the most had been stabbing me in the back while smiling in my face. I have always been the type of guy who wants a quiet life. I am not rich, but I am stable. I work hard. I treat people with respect. I don't care about fancy cars or luxury clothes. I care about loyalty, honesty, commitment, the things that are supposed to matter in a relationship. My wife, Melissa, used to tell me she appreciated that. She used to tell me I was the only man who ever made her feel safe. We had been together 6 years, married for 3, and during that time, I thought she was my soulmate. I thought she was the one person who would never cross the line. I never questioned her, not even once, because she always acted like she was the victim of the world. She always said she hated cheaters. She always said her exes hurt her. She always said she would never break my trust. I guess that's why betrayal feels like poison. It's not the act itself. It's the years of lies, the years of pretending, the years of building a life with someone who was secretly planning your heartbreak. It's like finding out your entire relationship was printed on cheap paper and one day the ink just washed away and you realized there was nothing real underneath. The second character in this story is my best friend, Tyler. We had been friends since high school. We were like brothers. We grew up together, worked our first job together, played sports together, and even shared an apartment for a year before I got married. When Melissa met Tyler, she said he was funny, friendly, respectful. She always called him your brother and your shadow because wherever I went, Tyler was usually not far behind. He was the kind of guy who could make friends with anyone. He had a way of talking that made people feel comfortable around him, especially women. But I trusted him. I never saw him as a threat. I never even considered that he might be the one who could destroy my marriage. This story begins with something small, something stupid, something so insignificant that I almost ignored it. But now that I look back, that moment was the first crack in the foundation.
She jumped when I opened the door. She looked guilty. She looked like she had swallowed a secret and it got stuck in her throat. She quickly put her phone face down on the couch. That was weird because Melissa never hid her phone from me. She never cared if I saw her notifications. She always said trust was everything. So why did she hide it now? I asked her if she was okay. She said she was fine. She said I scared her. She said she was watching videos. But her voice was shaky, her eyes avoiding mine. I didn't push it, but something felt off. Something felt like the air in the room had changed. That night, when she went to shower, her phone lit up. I didn't touch it. I didn't even lean closer. I only saw one thing. The name Tyler. My best friend. He texted her, "You good?" Just 2 simple words. Nothing wrong with that, right? I thought so too. I tried to convince myself it was normal. They were friends. They had known each other for years. They had talked before. But something bothered me. Something in my gut felt like a warning. Before I could think more about it, Melissa came out of the bathroom and grabbed her phone faster than usual. She didn't look at me. She didn't smile. She just put it on silent and went to bed early. Over the next few days, nothing obvious happened, but small things began to stack up. Melissa started taking longer showers. She started dressing nicer for errands. She started staying late at work. She started turning her phone upside down every time she placed it on a table. And every time I walked into a room, she locked her screen like she was hiding state secrets. But the weirdest part was Tyler. He slowly stopped coming around. He stopped texting me regularly. He stopped hanging out on weekends. He stopped dropping by like he always did. When I asked him if everything was okay, he said he was just busy. Busy with what? He didn't say. One night, Melissa got a call and stepped outside to take it. She said it was her sister, but she came back inside 5 minutes later with her face flushed, like she had run a marathon. I heard a small laugh escape her before she opened the door. A soft giggle, the type she used to make when she flirted with me years ago. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself stress was messing with my head. I told myself that Melissa would never betray me. She wasn't that type. She hated cheaters. She always said cheating ruined her childhood because her dad cheated on her mom, so she would never do that. Never, right? The story took a darker turn the night I accidentally heard her on the phone. I usually sleep early because of work. Melissa normally sleeps later because she watches videos or scrolls through social media. But that night, I woke up thirsty around 1 a.m. When I walked past the living room,
I heard Melissa whispering. Her voice was soft, careful, almost scared of being heard. I peeked from the corner, and she was sitting in the dark with only the glow of her phone lighting her face. She smiled. Not the smile she gives me when I surprise her with flowers, not the smile she gives strangers. This was a private smile, a secret smile. The kind she used to give me when we were dating. The kind that said, "I like you." Then she whispered, "I miss you too." My heart froze. I couldn't feel my fingers. The whole room felt cold. I stepped back quietly and pretended I never heard anything. It was like someone punched a hole through my chest, but I didn't bleed. I just stood there, numb, confused, broken in a way I couldn't explain. The next morning, she acted normal. She kissed my cheek like nothing happened. She made breakfast. She asked how I slept. She lied to my face with the confidence of a professional actor. That day, I realized something important. When someone is cheating, the most obvious signs become invisible because they mask it behind routine. They pretend harder. They act sweeter. They try to look innocent, so you feel guilty for even suspecting them. I needed answers. I needed the truth. I needed to know if I was losing my mind or losing my marriage. So I did the one thing I never thought I would do. I checked her phone. Not because I wanted to invade her privacy, not because I didn't trust her. I did it because I could feel my marriage slipping through my fingers, and the only way to hold on to it was to uncover the truth. One night when she went to shower again, I opened her phone. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I was terrified. I didn't know what I would find. Cheating stories always say the same thing. If you go looking, you will find something you don't want to see. I wish I hadn't looked. The first thing I saw was her lock screen notifications from Tyler. Tyler, when can I see you again? Tyler, last night was risky but worth it. Tyler, miss you already. My chest tightened. My ears rang. I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. I opened the chat. Hundreds of messages, flirty texts, inside jokes, late-night conversations, photos, plans to meet, comments about me, comments about how boring I am, comments about how they feel alive together, how sneaking around was exciting. My wife, my best friend, together. A knife through the back would have hurt less. Right then, she opened the bathroom door. I quickly dropped the phone, pretended to be texting. She didn't notice. She smiled at me. The same lips that told him, "I miss you." The moment she left the bathroom that night, something inside me broke in a way I couldn't fix. I wasn't just angry. I wasn't just sad. I was shattered. Every trust I had built, every memory I cherished, suddenly felt like a lie wrapped in a smile. For days, I struggled to breathe around Melissa. She acted normal, but I knew better.
Every glance, every word, every touch felt loaded with secrets. I stopped sleeping well. I stopped eating like myself. I replayed the messages over and over, haunted by the feeling that the person I loved had been living two lives, one with me and one with Tyler. I wanted to confront her, but I was scared. Scared of what she'd say. Scared of what she'd do. Scared that if I asked too much, she'd leave. Or worse, lie. Tyler disappeared from my life the same week. He stopped answering calls and texts. His social media was suddenly private. It was like he vanished overnight. When I asked him directly if something was wrong, he sent a short message, "Not my business." That hurt more than anything. Not because of the words, but because he refused to be there when I needed him most. The guy who promised to be a brother, the one who swore loyalty, turned into a ghost when the truth came knocking. One evening, I stayed up late scrolling through old photos of us, pictures from college, birthdays, vacations, Melissa smiling beside me, Tyler grinning like a kid. I wondered how many of those moments were real, and how many were just part of a bigger lie. I remember the night I finally decided to confront Melissa. It was a Saturday. She was cooking dinner, humming a song she used to sing when we first met. The smell of garlic and spices filled the air. For a moment, I almost forgot what I had discovered. But I couldn't. I walked up to her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Melissa, we need to talk." She turned, smiling, but her eyes betrayed her. They flickered with uncertainty. "About what?" she asked. I took a deep breath. "About Tyler. About us. About everything." Her smile faltered. She looked down, her hands trembling. "I didn't plan it. It just happened. I felt lost. You were always working, always tired. I felt alone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout that she was never alone, that I was always there, but the words stuck in my throat. I said instead, "You lied. You lied for months. You pretended. You hid everything." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." I don't know if I can believe that anymore. She stepped closer and touched my arm. "Please, let me fix this." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to forgive, but a voice inside me whispered, "What if this isn't the first time? What if there are more secrets?" Days passed. The tension between us grew thicker. Melissa tried to be affectionate, but every touch felt like a test. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. One night, I found a receipt in her jacket pocket. It was from a hotel downtown, dated 2 nights ago, the same night she told me she was at work late. I confronted her again. She broke down, admitting she met Tyler there. They weren't just texting, they were seeing each other in secret. I felt like the ground had fallen away. But the worst part wasn't the cheating. It was the betrayal of my best friend. Tyler wasn't just my friend, he was family. And they had destroyed everything. I reached out to him one last time. His voicemail was full. I texted, "Why?"
I remember that night vividly. It wasn't just any night. It was the night everything finally came crashing down. The night I lost whatever little faith I had left. Melissa and I barely spoke. The silence between us was deafening. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, picking at her food, her eyes avoiding mine. I wanted to scream at her, ask her how she could do this to me, to us, to everything we built. But all I managed was a whisper. "Why?" She looked up, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't know, Adam. I'm sorry. I wish I could take it back." But sorry wasn't enough. It never would be. I stood up, grabbing my keys. "I need some air." I walked out into the cold night, the city lights blurring through my tears. I called Tyler. For the first time in weeks, he picked up. "Hey, man," he said, his voice calm, almost casual. I wanted to scream. "How could you? How could you do this to me?" There was a pause. And then Tyler said, "You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to happen." "Wasn't supposed to happen?" I repeated, disbelief thick in my voice. "You're my best friend. You were supposed to have my back." "I know," he said quietly. "I messed up, but it's complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed bitterly. "Cheating on my wife with my best friend isn't complicated. It's betrayal." "Look," he said, "there's more going on than you know. Melissa's been hiding things from you, things that could ruin everything." I stopped walking, heart pounding. "What things?" "I can't say over the phone. Meet me tomorrow. We'll talk." I hung up, confusion and anger battling inside me. The next day, I met Tyler at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. He looked different, nervous, tired, like a man carrying a weight too heavy for his shoulders. "Tell me everything," I said. Tyler took a deep breath. "Melissa's been in trouble. Financial trouble. Debt, loans, bad investments. She was scared to tell you." I shook my head. "That doesn't excuse what she did." "I'm not excusing it, but she felt trapped. She thought she could fix things quietly, get the money she needed without you knowing. She made a deal with someone dangerous." My blood ran cold. "Who?" I asked. Tyler hesitated. "A guy named Victor. He's not someone you want to cross." I'd heard the name before, a shady businessman with a reputation for collecting debts, by any means necessary. Tyler continued, "Melissa asked me to help. At first it was just talking, but then things got out of control. I didn't want to hurt you, but I got involved. I wanted to scream, to throw my coffee cup, to punch a wall. But I stayed silent, listening." Tyler pulled out his phone, showing me messages between him and Melissa. Plans, threats, promises. It was worse than I imagined. He said if I didn't help, Victor would come after you, after me, after our families. I felt trapped in a nightmare. That's when Tyler confessed the worst part. The affair wasn't just passion or lust. It was a twisted way to keep me distracted, to buy time while Melissa tried to fix the mess she made. I left the cafe, feeling like I was sinking. Every breath was heavy. Every step felt like walking through mud. When I got home, Melissa was waiting. She looked exhausted, broken. She didn't say a word. I stared at her, trying to find the woman I once loved beneath the layers of lies. She whispered, "I'm sorry, Adam, for everything." I shook my head. Sorry doesn't fix this. She looked up, eyes pleading. "Help me. Please." That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the people I trusted most had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The week after Melissa left felt like I was walking through a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The apartment felt empty, too empty, and every corner seemed to echo with memories of her laughter, the warmth of her touch, and the lies she hid behind her smile. I kept asking myself how someone I loved so much could betray me in the worst way possible, not once but twice.
with my best friend, and with a secret I didn't even know existed. Tyler disappeared completely. His silence was louder than any excuse he could have given. No calls, no texts, no messages, nothing. The man I called brother turned his back when I needed him most, leaving me to pick up the pieces alone. I wasn't sure if I was angry, broken, or just numb. Probably all three. But then, as the days passed, the numbness gave way to a burning fire inside me. I knew I couldn't sit back and wait for answers to come to me. I had to find them myself. So I started digging. At first it was small things, checking bank statements, looking at phone bills, scanning emails. Then I started looking deeper, following trails Melissa left behind, transfers of money, messages from unknown numbers, strange meetings she never told me about. One night I found something that stopped my heart cold. Melissa's voicemail box had a message from a man named Victor. I didn't know who he was at first, but his voice was unmistakable. Cold, harsh, threatening. Melissa, you have 48 hours to pay what you owe. If not, you and everyone close to you will face consequences you won't forget. I listened to that message over and over, each time feeling a fresh wave of fear and anger. Who was this Victor? What had Melissa gotten herself into? And how deep was this dangerous world she'd been hiding from me? I had no choice but to find out. At work, I started missing deadlines, nodding off during meetings, and staring blankly at my computer screen. My coworkers noticed, and some even asked if everything was okay, but I couldn't bring myself to explain the storm raging inside. At night, I'd lie awake wondering if Melissa was safe, if Tyler was involved with this Victor, or if my life would ever return to normal. Then came the call. It was from an unknown number. When I answered, a voice, distorted and robotic, whispered, "If you want to see your wife again, follow our instructions exactly." My blood ran cold. The voice didn't say who they were or what they wanted, just a warning and a demand. I hung up slowly, my hands shaking. I wasn't just dealing with cheating anymore. This was real danger. I knew I had to protect myself, protect what little I had left. That night, I locked every door and window in the apartment. I didn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. I kept my phone close, waiting for the next call. Then, an envelope appeared, slipped under my door. Inside was a single photo. Melissa, hand in hand with Victor. Her face was tired, scared. I wanted to hate her, to yell at her, to scream. But all I could feel was sadness. I was losing everything. Then Tyler reached out. He sent a message. "I'm sorry. I messed up. We're both trapped. Meet me at the old warehouse. Midnight. Come alone." I debated for hours. I didn't know if I could trust him, if I wanted to see him, but I needed answers. At midnight, I found myself standing in front of a run-down warehouse on the edge of town. The streetlights flickered. The air smelled of rust and forgotten memories. Inside, Tyler was waiting. His face was pale, eyes tired but urgent. "We don't have much time," he said. "Victor's dangerous. He's not someone to mess with. But Melissa, she's caught in the middle. She tried to protect you, protect us." I wanted to ask so many questions, but all I could do was listen. Tyler pulled out a folder. Inside were documents, contracts, loan agreements, even threats. Melissa had borrowed money from Victor months ago. At first, it was to cover some debts, but it spiraled out of control. Victor was demanding more, and Melissa couldn't keep up. "That's why she turned to me," Tyler explained. "She needed someone she trusted to help her manage it. But things got complicated." Tyler looked away, ashamed. "Victor found out about us," he whispered. "He used our affair to blackmail us, to keep us silent." I felt sick.
It was never about love, Tyler said. It was survival. The more I learned, the more tangled the web became. Melissa's betrayal wasn't just personal. It was a desperate act to save herself from a man who thrived on fear. I realized then that the biggest betrayal wasn't the affair. It was the lies, the silence, the fear that trapped us all. I wanted to forgive. I wanted to fix what was broken. But trust doesn't come easy after this kind of damage. When I left the warehouse that night, I knew my life had changed forever. Melissa and Tyler weren't just cheating on me. They were victims too, caught in a dangerous game that threatened to destroy us all. But the question remained, could I ever forgive them? Could I ever trust again? And what would happen when Victor came for me? The answers were buried somewhere in the dark, waiting for me to find them.
The sun had barely set when I received the message that changed everything. A simple text, no signature, no phone number, just words that chilled me to the bone. You have 72 hours to pay, or she's gone. My heart stopped. Every muscle tensed. That was the moment I understood how deep this nightmare really was. I sat in my car, parked outside the small diner where Melissa and I used to eat breakfast on lazy Sunday mornings. The memories hit me like a freight train. Her smile, the way she'd reach for my hand, the way we dreamed of a future that now felt like a cruel joke. For the first time, I let myself feel the full weight of it all. The betrayal, the lies, the fear. But anger soon replaced the sadness. Fierce and burning. I wouldn't let this man, Victor, ruin what little I had left. I pulled out my phone and called Tyler. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. Tyler, it's Adam. We need to talk. Now. No reply. I paced the empty parking lot, trying to formulate a plan. The police were involved, but Victor was careful. He left no trail. The private investigator I hired was digging up dirt, but time was running out. I remembered an old contact from college, Jake, a guy who worked in cybersecurity and had helped me once before. I sent him a desperate text, hoping for a miracle. Minutes later, Jake called back. Adam, tell me everything. I poured out the story, from the first suspicious messages, to the threats, to Victor's control over Melissa. Jake listened quietly. We'll find a way. There's always a way. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced through every worst-case scenario. I kept thinking about Melissa. Was she safe? Was she scared? Did she still love me? Or had the betrayal killed that part of us forever? The next morning, I met with the private investigator, Mark. He handed me a thick envelope. We got something, he said. Inside were photos. Victor meeting with other dangerous-looking men, exchanging envelopes, making deals in dark alleyways. Mark explained they had been monitoring Victor's illegal activities for months, and that these pictures could be used to pressure him. Suddenly, hope flickered. Over the next 2 days, I coordinated with the police, Mark, Jake, and a few trusted friends. We planned a sting operation to catch Victor in the act. Meanwhile, Melissa contacted me. Her voice was shaky. Adam, I'm sorry. I never wanted any of this to happen. I listened, but said little. Words felt useless now. She told me she wanted to cooperate, to help bring Victor down, and to try to fix what we had. It was a fragile olive branch. The night before the deadline, I barely ate or slept. My phone buzzed constantly. Anonymous threats, warnings to back off, reminders of the danger. Then came the final message. You don't have a choice. Tomorrow is the last chance. I stared at the screen, feeling the crushing weight of it all. The next morning, dawn broke cold and gray. I barely slept, my mind racing through every possible outcome. The sting operation was set for the evening. Everything had to go perfectly. If Victor caught wind of it, all of us could be in danger.
But if it worked, it could end this nightmare once and for all. Melissa met me at a small cafe near my apartment. She looked tired, worn out, like the weight of the world was crushing her. But there was something different in her eyes, a flicker of determination I hadn't seen before. "I want to help," she said quietly. "Whatever it takes." I nodded. Trust was fragile between us, but we both knew this was bigger than personal pain. This was survival. Tyler, however, stayed silent. No calls, no texts. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. His betrayal cut deep, but his absence felt like another wound. Jake worked tirelessly, hacking into Victor's communications. The evidence started piling up: texts, emails, recorded calls, all enough to build a case. But catching him in person was the key. By late afternoon, Mark and the police had set up surveillance near the location where Victor planned to collect the money. I felt a knot in my stomach as I handed over a duffel bag filled with marked bills, the bait for Victor's trap. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I waited in a nearby car, heart pounding. Every shadow seemed to move with malicious intent. I kept checking my phone for any sign from Melissa. She was at a safe house, protected by the police. Minutes felt like hours. Then, through the dim streetlight, Victor appeared flanked by two men I didn't recognize. He carried a black bag. The officers moved quietly into position. Victor reached the drop point, grabbed the bag, and started to walk away. That's when the police moved in. "Freeze! You're under arrest!" an officer shouted. Chaos erupted. Victor shoved one of his men and bolted down the alley. The officers gave chase. I stayed frozen, adrenaline rushing through my veins. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Victor was tackled to the ground and cuffed. The relief hit me like a tidal wave. In the days that followed, the truth came out. Victor's empire of crime was dismantled, piece by piece. His associates were arrested. The threats stopped. Melissa entered counseling, opening up about her fears and mistakes. Tyler reached out once more, apologizing sincerely, though the damage between us felt irreparable. I realized the road to healing would be long and painful, but it was possible. One evening, sitting alone on the balcony of my apartment, I stared at the stars, thinking about everything I'd been through. Betrayal, fear, danger, loss, but also resilience, forgiveness, and hope. I didn't know what the future held, but I was ready to face it, stronger than before. The days after Victor's arrest felt like waking up from a nightmare, only to find the scars still fresh. The threat was gone, but the damage remained. Melissa and I tried to talk, really talk, but it was hard. Every word was weighed down by betrayal and pain. Sometimes we'd sit in silence, the ghosts of the past filling the room. She told me things I hadn't known, how Victor had twisted her with fear, how desperation pushed her into decisions she regretted deeply. Tyler's role wasn't just as a betrayer, but as someone trapped in the same web, trying to survive. I wanted to hate them both, but hate felt empty. What I felt instead was exhaustion and a desperate hope for something better. Counseling helped. Slowly, piece by piece, the cracks in our relationships began to mend. Melissa worked hard to regain my trust. Tyler stayed distant, but sent occasional messages, apologizing and offering support from afar. I focused on rebuilding my life, work, friends, and rediscovering parts of myself I'd lost in the chaos. It wasn't easy. Every reminder of what happened hurt. But I reminded myself that healing is not linear. It's messy and slow. One afternoon, Jake called me.
"News. We found more evidence on Victor's accounts," he said. "Turns out he's been laundering money through shell companies tied to people you'd never expect." I nodded. Good. Lock him up for as long as possible. I realized that while Victor was gone,
The ripples of his actions would affect many lives for years. But there was one lesson I took to heart. I was stronger than the pain, smarter than the lies, and ready to take back my future. The weeks turned into months. Melissa and I, though forever changed, found a fragile new normal. Trust was a seed we planted carefully, watering it with honesty and patience. Sometimes it wilted. Sometimes it grew. I forgave, but I didn't forget. Because forgetting would mean losing myself. And that was something I wasn't willing to do. The story of betrayal, danger, and survival wasn't just about loss. It was about finding strength in the darkest places, about choosing to rise when everything tries to pull you down, about learning that sometimes the hardest battles bring the greatest growth, and that no matter what, life goes on.